Hello everybody, and today we're going to talk about the Louisiana Purchase. First, let's start with what it was. The Louisiana Purchase was the purchase of the Louisiana Territory, that big green spot right there, by the United States from France in 1803. The territory was 828,000 square miles, and the purchase effectively doubled the size of the United States. As you can see, that big green spot right there is about the size of this and about the size of what was to come to the United States. Now, let's get into more specific information. First, let's look at how the purchase came to be made. The Louisiana Territory was sold to us by Napoleon. Napoleon was a revolutionist who rapidly rose through the ranks of the military during the French Revolution. He seized political power in France in a 1799 coup. French power rebounded under the subsequent military leadership of Napoleon. On October 1st, 1800, Napoleon induced a reluctant King Charles IV of Spain to agree to cede Louisiana back to France. In 1802, under French orders, Spain in effect revoked the right of deposit, meaning that the U.S. could no longer leave through New Orleans, causing considerable tensions in the West. With this, the U.S. now desired to purchase New Orleans. But because of factors such as French failure in Santo Domingo, the imminence of renewed war with Great Britain, and financial stringencies, Napoleon in 1803 offered to sell to the United States the entire Louisiana Territory. Now, let's talk about the purchase. A treaty was signed on May 2nd. By its terms, the Louisiana Territory, in the form France had received it from Spain, was sold to the United States. For this vast domain, the United States agreed to pay $11,250,000 outright and assumed claims of its citizens against France in the amounts of $3,750,000. Interest payments incidental to the final settlement made the total price $27,267,622. Precisely what the United States had purchased was unclear. The wording of the treaty was vague. It did not clearly describe the boundaries. It gave no assurances that West Florida was to be considered a part of Louisiana. Neither did it delineate the southwest boundary, but the American negotiators were fully aware of this. Now we get to talk about presidential problems. Before the United States could establish fixed boundaries to Louisiana, there arose a basic question concerning the constitutionality of the purchase. Did the Constitution of the United States provide for an act of this kind? The President, in principle a strict constitutionalist, thought that an amendment to the Constitution might be required to legalize the transaction, but after due consideration and considerable oratory, the Senate approved the treaty by a vote of 24-7. In the end, this purchase had strengthened federal power and was counterproductive to Jefferson's desired cutbacks on government spending. Now that we have the constitutional issue fixed, we can finally begin to set the boundaries. The setting of fixed boundaries was awaited negotiations with Spain and Great Britain. The exasperating dispute with Spain over the ownership of West Florida and Texas was finally settled by the purchase of the Floridas from Spain in 1819 and the establishment of a fixed southwest boundary line. The northern boundary was established by an Anglo-American convention in 1818. The Rocky, then referred to as Stony Mountains, were accepted as the western limit of the Louisiana Territory, and the Mississippi River was considered for all practical purposes the eastern boundary of the territory. Now that we have this, we have to go back a little bit. We need to know exactly what we had just purchased. This began the Lewis and Clark expedition. The Lewis and Clark expedition began in 1804 when President Thomas Jefferson tasked Meriwether Lewis with exploring lands west of the Mississippi River that comprised the Louisiana Purchase. Lewis chose William Clark as the co-leader for the mission. Over the duration of the trip, from May 14, 1804 to September 23, 1806, from St. Louis, Missouri to the Pacific Ocean and back, the expedition, also known as the Corps of Discovery, traveled nearly 8,000 miles. The group, numbering about 4 dozen men, covered 10 to 20 miles a day, poling, pushing, and pulling their 10-ton keelboat and 2 dugout boats up the Missouri River. Lewis's iron-framed boat was later assembled and covered with skins near Great Falls in present-day Montana, but had to be abandoned because the seams leaked. The captain and at least 5 others kept journals. President Jefferson had instructed Lewis to make observations of latitude and longitude and to take detailed notes about the soil, climate, animals, plants, and native peoples. Lewis identified 178 plants new to science, as well as 122 animals. The expedition encountered immense animal herds and ate well, consuming 1 buffalo, 2 elk, or 4 deer per day, supplemented by roots, berries, and fish. They named geographical locations after expedition members, peers, loved ones, and even their dog, Seaman's Creek. Through their journey, they experienced dysentery, venereal disease, boils, tick bites, and injuries from prickly pears. Yet only 1 man perished over the course of the journey. In the end, the journey was deemed a huge success and provided new geographical, ecological, and social information about previously uncharted areas of North America. And this, I get to inform you, is the end. Thank you for your attention, and good night.